Hey everybody, today we're going to do a quick video and I'm going to show you how to import textures into Blender so that you can create shader materials for your Blender objects that look fantastic. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to find some shader materials that we can use. To do that, I'm going to use a site called ambientcg.com. These are public domain materials for physical-based rendering. You can also find this under, here's their licensing page, but they're also under CC0 textures or the Creative Commons 0 license. So cc0textures.com, or you can find them at ambientcg.com. So yeah, this is fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to do explore all assets. We're going to find a material that we would like to use. I'm just going to pick this one randomly. Okay. You can then choose the type of download that you want to do. So these are 2K, 4K, and 8K, which is pretty crazy. So I'm just going to use 2K and I'm going to use PNG. It's your preference, but I just always use PNG now. JPEG's kind of old school. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download this material and let me open it up and I will show you what we're going to do. What you see on the inside is you have ambient occlusion, color, displacement, normal, and roughness. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to use ambient occlusion, but I am going to use these other four. So let me extract this and then we're going to bring these into Blender. So let me do that real quick. Okay, so if we look at these files, you can see the ambient occlusion, color, displacement, normal, and roughness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these and I'm going to drag them into our Blender instance in the shader nodes tab. So let's switch to Blender. What I'm going to do is, because we're going to create like a floor, I'm going to get rid of this default cube. Okay. Then I'm going to add in a plane. I'm going to scale it, so S5, just to make it a little bit bigger. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to center my camera right here, and I'm going to do view, align view, if you don't know where these are, Control Alt numpad 0. That centers our camera right here so we can see. So what I'm going to do is, with my plane selected, I'm going to go to shading and then I'm going to hit new. This gives us our principal BSDF. Let me zoom this up here a little bit so we can see a little bit better. So now what we need to do is we need to start importing our textures that we got from Ambient CG, and we're just going to drag them down in here. So I drag from File Explorer. So here's my color, and I'm going to attach this to base color. So now that will update. You can see that. The next thing we're going to do is the roughness. So roughness, we're going to drag into the roughness node. Perfect. The next thing is the normal. So with the normal, what you need to do is you need to add a bump node. So under vector, go to bump. Okay. Drag the color into the height. Very good. And then the normal goes into the normal of our BSDF. So this starts adding that sort of, bump displacement, which is sort of, fake displacement. That's what bumps are, right? You're not actually displacing the vertices of the mesh. You are just sort of giving it the impression that it is displaced. So then, last but not least, we're going to actually grab the full displacement. So here's our displacement texture. And in order to to update this, what you need to do is, so here's our material output. Let me drag this down here. Okay. And what we're going to do is we need another node here. So we're going to do vector displacement. Okay, very much like the bump node. We're going to take the color, go into the height, and out of the displacement, we're going to add another node. So normally you could just drag this right into here. But what you're going to see, well, actually, you're not going to see anything at the moment because displacement only works at render time when you're using cycles. So let me switch over to cycles. That's what I prefer to use. Okay. And under cycles, what you need to do is a couple things to get displacement working. So right now you see there is no displacement going on. So what you need to do is you need to go back to modeling. And if you look at this plane, you see that there is only 4 vertices, right? And with those 4 vertices, you can't displace the vertex because there really isn't enough geometry here in this plane. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and do subdivide, and I'm going to subdivide it by 50. And what that's going to do is add a lot more geometry to this plane, and it will allow us to displace these vertexes so that it actually, you know, will look like it's changing its shape. I'm actually going to go up a little bit more. I'm going to go to 100. So that is very, very subdivided. And now if we go back to shading, okay, you still see we don't see any displacement, even though there's plenty of geometry for it to displace. The reason is you need to go to your material tab, close this surface and the displacement, and under settings you're going to see a displacement setting, and currently it's set to bump only, which means it's only really respecting this node here. And what you need to do is you need to change this from bump only to displacement and bump. And now when you still don't see any displacement, but if you go into render mode, you see that it looks really crazy, like mountains. The reason is that there is no strength modifier here that we can adjust on the displacement node. So all you need to do is add a converter, a math node, drop it in here. We're going to change it to multiply, okay? And then if we set this to 0, let me show you. So if we set this to 0, you notice that there is no displacement going on. But if we increase just a little bit, all of a sudden you can see on the edges even that now it is actually displacing the vertices. If we go a little bit more, okay, you can really see that along the edges here, it's displacing the vertices. And what this is doing is bringing up those rocks. So it's actually changing the geometry altogether, and therefore the shadows are going to pick up much better. So lighting will get affected by this displaced geometry and all of that. So you can adjust your strength value here. If the bump looks too strong, which I feel like it kind of does right now, you can also adjust the strength of that. So let me show you. If we go to bump 0, right, it's kind of got like a smooth look to it. Let's try to go to, let's say, 0.3, right? And I think that looks slightly more realistic to what we have. You know, you can play with these. Actually, maybe a little bit stronger so it's not so shiny. It may be too much. Yeah, I'm not, you know, a graphic artist, so, but I'm just trying to give you the idea of how to do this. So yeah, so now we're actually displacing our geometry, and that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to show you today. It's a quick video. The one thing that we can't do here is we cannot scale the size of the rocks or anything. So let me show you how you do that real quick. So if you have Node Wrangler installed, if you don't have Node Wrangler, go to Preferences, and then search for Node Wrangler. To show you real quick. Make sure you have the Node Wrangler plugin installed, okay? What you do is you click on color, you hit Control T, and what that's gonna do is create a texture coordinate and a mapping node and hook it up to your tile. So what this does is, based off the UV settings of your object, it is going, you can adjust the location, rotation, and scale. And you take the output of this and plug it into your textures here. So we're gonna do to the roughness, and this keeps your normal, your roughness, and your displacement all at the same scale. So now what you do is, if you left click and drag, it's not what I wanted to do. If you left click and drag down, you can edit all of the options together. And if you multiply this, let's say by 2, you see that now we have double the amount of rocks, and the scale has been changed. So this is something that you can control. I think you could probably even do, let's say, an input here. Let's see, value, and just drag this over here. And I believe you should be able to drag a value right into the scale so that they all are controlled by the same value. Yeah, so you can make it really big or really small, whatever you want. I'll leave it there just so we can do a quick render. But that looks pretty good. And then last but not least, I'll just do a final render. And that'll be it for today. So let me render this out. There we go. So now you see you have these fantastic displaced, your geometry has been displaced. You get this nice outline of the rocks over here, and everything else looks fantastic. So that's it, guys. Today was a really quick video. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a great day. Bye.